Rachel.
Alright, we're recording.
I'm recording.
Yes, we are. Hello, everybody. We really don't want to be here right now. We want to be asleep. But tutorial for how to make contours in Rhino so that you can then apply them to a laser cutting.
So we're going to pretend like these are volumes that we have modeled based off the site model. This should be what you're starting with roughly as well. And as you can see in the front viewport that all of our volumes are at slightly different levels. So the first thing we need to do is get them all on the same plane, the zero plane. To do that, we're going to make a line. You want to make sure that your snap and your ortho are on. Ortho will help you make straight lines. Snap will make it easy to select things. So you're going to type in line and then type in 0, 0 to make sure it's on that 0 height level. So then you select all your building volumes and that line, and you make sure that you're in either your front or your right viewport and type in the command align. Hit enter and then hit B for bottom and hit enter, and it should bring all of those volumes down so that they are aligned with the line that you drew. So go ahead and delete that line, we don't need it anymore. Just for Nicolo and I's sake, to make arranging these things a little bit easier, we'd like you to take your clusters of buildings and line them up side by side, similar to what Nicolo is doing here. And after you line them up, the process is the same for every building. So once we have these lined up, we're just going to hide 3 of them and just work on 1, and everything you do from here on out you'll do for each individual building. When we glue all these layers together later on, we want to make sure that they line up properly, so we're going to create some holes that we'll stick a wood dowel in after they've been printed or laser cut. So go ahead and select your cube volume and pick a point near the end. The dimensions, you're going to type in the @ symbol. That tells the computer to make these dimensions based off of the first point that you clicked. And our dimensions are 0.09375 by 0.09375. And that's just 3/32. That's the size of the dowel that we'll be using. For the height, make sure the height extends all the way up to the top of your building. And so that's a nice little peg hole. We're going to Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste that. And if you hold down the Shift button while you're moving something, then you can move things in a diagonal line. You want to have 2 pegs in opposite corners. Make sure there's a little bit of room between the peg and the edge of the contour. Excellent. So now we're going to select all 3 of those objects, and you want to type in the command contour. It's going to ask you for a base point, so click on the bottom. It's going to ask you for the perpendicular direction, so click somewhere above. If you're in ortho mode, this should give you a straight line. And then for the distance, that's the thickness of our material, which is 0.06. Hit enter and it should calculate all those lovely contours. So at this point, while all the contour lines are still highlighted, they're just line segments. We want to join them together, so type in join. And you'll notice in the command line that there's some open curves. We want to close those, so just type in close and select the close curve option that comes up. Okay, so at this point we don't need our building volumes anymore. We're just going to be working with those contours. You can go ahead and select those volumes and hide them, or delete them even, doesn't really matter. And we're left with just those contour lines. So the next step of the process is we want to spread out those contours so that they're not over top of each other anymore. And first step in that process is we need to create a line that's going along the z-axis. So type in line, click somewhere near the center of your footprint, and then in either the front or right view you're going to extend that line straight up. Now in your perspective view, and the order of this is kind of important, so you want to highlight everything except for that line. So go ahead and highlight everything and then just delete the line or highlight around it as Niccolo just did. And you want to type in the command shear. It's going to ask you for an origin point. Make sure you're in your perspective window, zoom in, and select the bottom of your vertical line as the origin point. Next, it's going to ask for a reference point. So you want to go to your right viewport, and you want to click the top of that line as your reference point. Now, as you move your cursor down, you should see these curves, or the contours, spreading out. When your cursor gets all the way to the bottom of your model, they should be spread out enough that they are no longer overlapping. This command is a very particular one, so if things don't work out for you the way you want to, I would suggest hitting escape and try again. Make sure that you do things in the order and the correct viewports. Worst comes to worst and it's not working, you can, after you've selected your reference point, type in the value 89.9 and it'll just spread them out really far, and that's something that you'll have to correct at the end. But hopefully it'll work for you on the first go. So you'll notice in the front viewport that all of the curves are still not, they're still slightly elevated. So you want to click on your top viewport while everything is highlighted, and you want to type in the command project to C plane. To C plane, there it is. It's going to ask you if you want to delete the input objects, type Y for yes, so that you don't duplicate your set of curves, and that should bring everything down to that same Z equals 0 plane. So go ahead and delete your vertical line, we don't need that anymore. And at this point we're going to add some text, so you want to create a new layer in your layers menu and label that as text. Make sure that is your working layer before we start this next phase here. Once you have all that set up, go ahead and type in Grasshopper into your command line. You should already have Grasshopper downloaded and installed and all that. Also on DAppSpace, there is a Grasshopper script that you can download. You want to save that somewhere on your computer. When you open Grasshopper, you're going to go to File, Open Document, and find that script, Automate Numbers, and open that. Should get a screen that looks similar to the one that we have here. Very first step is to click on the line input box. You're going to right click on it and select the set one line option. So now in Grasshopper it's asking you, or in Rhino, excuse me, it's asking you where you want that line to be. So on your very first contour you're going to pick a point. Really any point will do. And then you're going to scroll up to your very last contour and you're going to pick that same point. Okay, so we already know that there are 21 contours. For your buildings, you want to count up how many contours there are. And then in Grasshopper, there's a slider that has a yellow notation that says number of layers. You're going to right click on that gray box, and you're going to go to Edit, and under numeric value at the bottom, you'll put in however many contours you have. What that should do is put a little red X with a little red number next to, or in the same spot on every single contour. If for any reason you don't see a little red number, chances are it's actually there, it's just too small. So in Grasshopper, if you look on the right, there is a slider that with a yellow note that says size of the tag. You want to make sure that that's at 0.125. And you can always adjust that if it's not. It just so happens with our set of contours that the labels are already inside. If for any reason your labels appear outside of your contour, there are a pair of sliders at the bottom that you can use to adjust the placement of your label up and down and left and right. If for any reason you need to move your label further than those sliders will allow, you can right click and select Edit, and you can change the minimum and maximum numeric domains. So after you've gotten the labels where you want them to be, you want to go to the right side of the Grasshopper pathway, select Tag, and then you're going to click on this icon up here that will bake them. The baking process essentially just puts it into your Rhino file, so you'll notice that the number has gone from red to green. So when you close out a grasshopper, the numbers will stay there.